Hey, David, there's a lot of discussion about taxing the very rich at 70% or higher. Where specifically would you set the 70% tax bracket to begin? Okay, very good question. When we talk about higher marginal tax rates, we're not talking about, for example, when we say the top rate should be 70%, we're not saying you take rich people and you tax them 70% on all of their income. We are saying income above a certain threshold is taxed at 70%. So you might, if imagine we set the 70% marginal rate at $10 million, you would pay 36% federally or whatever it is on your first $400,000, $500,000 in income. We might establish a 42% rate on income between 500,000 and 1.5 million. Between 1.5 million and 10 million, you might pay 55%. And then on that income above 10 million, you would start to pay the 70% marginal tax rate. I have seen good plans, good proposals that would start the 70% rate at 5 million, 10 million, and 20 million. Now, you might say, David, you could make $18 million and not pay the top rate. That seems insane. That seems like an incredible continued handout to the very rich. And in a sense, it is. But what you have to understand is that the very, very wealthy are often not earning income via wages. They're earning income via investments and business distributions. And those are, depending on how they're set up, not taxed at the income tax rate. So you could have someone who earns a salary of $500,000, and then that is subject to income tax on wages. And then they might get $20 million through other mechanisms where it's only subject to the capital gains tax. So that's why, if we're really going to have a serious conversation about deciding that as a country, as a society, the very rich have to pay more, you're going to have to deal with capital gains, because as has been pointed out before, the marginal tax rate alone doesn't dictate effective levels of taxation. And what I mean by effective is not that they work well. I mean actual. So like, what is the actual effective tax rate that you're paying? You're going to have to deal with capital gains for those very, very rich people. But I want to then go even further with this for a moment. It's really important not to allow the super rich to control the narrative on this issue, because in every way, the language that's used to discuss this topic, the language that's used to discuss a lot of related topics that are important to how much money are the plutocrats and the corporations and the kleptocrats going to end up with, the language and the discourse is deliberately narrowed in a way that systemically favors the rich. So the focus needs to be, initially, it's not about the top 20%, although the top 20% is important, but the top 20% includes people who are making a lot less than you might imagine. It's not even about the top 10%. It's not even about the top 5%. The level of inequality between the top 0.1%, the top 0.5%, and the top 1% is enormous. And what we have to remember when we think about levels of taxation is that this is not about, although we should have this conversation, it's not about drastically increasing the taxes paid by someone who makes $421,000 a year, which puts them at the very bottom of the top 1%. This is about the top 0.5%, the top 0.1%, and the top 0.01%. And if you're going to deal with that seriously, just taxing earned income, wages, is not going to be the way to do it. But I've sort of gone on a complete tangent. I've seen reasonable plans where the top rate kicks in at 5, 10, or 20 million. And I am sort of leaning towards the 5 or 10 million as the place where I would have that kick in. Let me know what you think. Let me know about your ideas regarding tax brackets and capital gains and what else needs to happen. We've got a great, great bonus show for you today. Become a member at www.joinpakman.com or become a patron at patreon.com/David Pakman Show to get instant access to the world famous bonus show.